Is it on? Yeah. Hi. Hello. Hi. Hi, everyone. I'm Matt Turk from Bloomberg Ventures. Welcome. So the theme tonight is vertical applications of big data, so interesting startups trying to build industry-specific solutions based on the big data stack. We are going to be hearing from, in order, from Recorded Future. I was going to talk about big data and finance and government. We are going to hear from Lex McKenna, which is big data and law. We're going to hear from Data Market, which is a data marketplace but happens to have an energy-specific product. And we are going to be hearing from Numberfire, which is big data and sports. So for those who come here regularly, we changed the format the last couple of times. We're going to revert back to the sort of standard format, which is each presenter is going to talk for 10 minutes, just to give you guys a taste for what it is that they do. And then we're going to go into a panel format with lots of room for Q&A after that. So, and before we get started, just something that at least I thought was very interesting. Some interesting funding news from our recent speakers. So for those who are in June, Continuity just raised 10 million Series A from Battery with participation from Andreessen Horowitz. And for those who are in September, each one of our speakers basically announced that they raised money. So if you want to raise money, you should speak here. So 10Gen raised another 7 million, this time from Intel and Red Hat. Not that they were lacking any funding before that. Mordor announced their seed round for 1.8 million. I don't know if they're here. No, they're registered, but okay. And Datadog, which we also presented in September, raised 6 million Series A. And interestingly, Datadog raised a round led by RTP Ventures. RTP presented in February, and from IA Ventures, and IA Ventures spoke at the last event. So I don't know if it's good or incestuous, or but it's I guess this is one of the places where all those companies and funds that are very active in the space get together, and it's fantastic to have them all. And tonight again we have an additional great 4 companies. So without further ado, Christopher Alberg is the CEO and founder of Recorded Future. Let me give you... So this should work.
Good. Can you hear me okay? Good. I see somebody I recognize there. Good. Very good.
And just click on this.
Click there. Yeah. Very cool. So turn the web into predictive signals. How about that? So I like to sort of put this up. I call this my mural of surprise. You look at this and you'll find sort of a surprise for every taste maybe. All kinds. Some of them go way back in time. Some of them more recent. All sorts. They sort of are mostly, I would call them nasty. Maybe a few, I don't know, the iPhone 5 up, the original iPhone up on the upper right might be more of a positive, at least for most. But for some reason, at least to me, it feels like we're having these sort of things hitting us over and over again. And it's happening faster, or it could also be that it's just a function of news sort of transporting itself faster around the world than it's ever done. But something interesting going on here, and we sort of set out to say, could we actually make a dent in this? Not that we're going to make any of this go away, but can we make 0.25% of a dent in the sort of the rate of surprise, if you want? And I sort of think about this, that you have to sort of go from just thinking about these as these black swan events that come out of the blue and say, look, can I turn this into data? So the day of the Benghazi attack, that on September 11th, the 10-year anniversary on September 11th, a friend sent me this curve in the morning before the event, and sort of interesting just after the fact. This is a curve that shows food prices over the last 8 years or something like that, from 2004, and it has a nice sort of embedded curve for a longer time period. And then the red is basically trying to show a little bit of frequency around food riots. And what it shows you is that as people get hungry, they'll go out and riot. hungry people get angry. And, I think about myself. If I was hungry, I'd probably be pretty angry. And if my kids would be hungry, I'd be really angry. So now, we could sort of, opens up to all kinds of political debates and all of these sort of things, which we won't do here. But I think it's interesting because what it says to me is that, wow, if I can actually deal with data, now I can actually do analysis, I can start doing all kinds of things. And maybe the one point to make about all this sort of political whatever, sort of about what happened after this Benghazi attack, what about if we could actually look at a curve like this and say, should we have increased security on all our embassies around the world actually before, based on this? Now, but the point that I'm trying to make is if we can treat the world as data, we can do better with it. So what we'd like to make the point is that the future at some level is available today. And where is it available? It's available on the web, where you can find these signals about what's going to happen. And it can be a signal about something that is hours out, days out, and all the way much further out. And what we've set out to do with Recorded Future is actually to, from a vast amount of sources and sort of ranging from SEC filings and Chinese government websites to Twitter, suck this in, organize it by people and places and organizations and what have you, and by time and events, and actually turn that into a data set. Oh, sorry, a little bit too fast. The real interesting part of all of this might be that when we think about the social graph going on out there, so many of you have probably seen the picture at the bottom here being this sort of beautiful Facebook visualization. I think it's a subset, really, of the Facebook friends graph. And then on top of that, is in sort of a version of the same, a subset of the Twitter follower graph. And even this is interesting in itself. You start saying what's going on in China, what's going on in Russia, even just at that level. But then you start saying, what's happening in this? What are people talking about? What sort of information is transmitted? What's the group in one place talking about versus a group of people in another place? What about if you could actually turn that into data? So what we've done is to build a machinery that sucks a whole bunch of this in. We extract, use sort of basic linguistics technology to extract entities, people, places, organizations. We extract events, and today I'll be talking about protest events a fair amount, just to sort of simplify a little bit, but we probably extract some 120 different event types, financial events, geopolitical events, people events, to people meeting, talking, emailing, what have you. But all in some 120 different event types. And then time. And so we do this in English and Arabic and Chinese and Farsi and Russian and Spanish and French. I call these the random set of languages, maybe not so random. And then can actually understand if it says Wu Jintao will travel to Madagascar on Friday in 7 different languages, and actually be able to sort of pull that together and say that here's one event of Wu Jintao traveling to Madagascar, which could be pretty interesting if you're watching Wu Jintao. Now, so pulling that together with linguistics and actually being able to do this sort of across the web at scale, and sort of amazing how you now can do this at a fraction of the cost what it would be 5 years ago. You can actually store this in ways that, at some level it's obviously pretty amazing how you can actually do it. Then every month you get your Amazon billing, you're ready to go be suicidal when you see it. But, there's that balance of like, yes, it's cheap, but it's terribly expensive. I'm sure you have some of that feeling. And then you can do math on this that is pretty neat as well. And now you can actually create signals. So here is sort of just doing from this morning, looking at, where were there protests over the last 30 days at a high level, just filter it out. Or go from there and say, where will there be protests over the next 30 days? So the history is sort of interesting. But what about if I can actually look forward and say, where will there be protests? And you can imagine many different reasons you'd be interested in, want to know where there's going to be unrest. Or dive in and say, there's a protest in India here. Let's dive in and take a look at India. So now if I run a supply chain in India, or if I have stores in India, or if I'm going to travel to India, I have investment bankers I'm sending to, what have you. That could be pretty interesting to know what's going on in India, and actually being able to organize it, not just as text, but actually turn it into data. And be able to dive into the individual events and see what's happening. But the point that I've been trying to make here is that, if you actually turn text into data, and do that at the scale of the web, you can actually maybe do that 0.25% dent in surprises, and lots of different places to apply this at. We're primarily focusing on what I would call sort of security-oriented applications, but lots of different places to take it. And I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.